Welcome to the mindful musings of two spiritual mamas. We are Alicia
and Shelby,
here to share our 20 years of authentic friendship, life experiences, and acquired wisdom. Infused with love and intention, our episodes will inspire those who are ready to shift their soul path into alignment with its divine purpose.
We will discuss alternative approaches to life's traditional pathways, leaving you with tools in your spiritual toolbox to navigate everyday moments. Knowing and embodying the empowered self on a daily basis is one of the most valuable practices you can adopt. Understanding that you are surrounded by a network of support, both physically and spiritually, will carry you into the next phase of your divine purpose.
You are not alone on this journey. We recognize we're on a spiritual path, navigating our day-to-day lives, and in this podcast, we'll share with you our organic thoughts as we grow and blossom together.
Welcome to episode 8 with two spiritual mamas. I am Shelby.
And I'm Alicia.
And today's episode is about having flexibility when faced with unexpected change, a topic we are all getting very familiar with during these past 12 months of COVID.
Oh my goodness, this is a topic I love to talk about, and we've had so much opportunity to use as
You're
fodder.
So positive.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And actually, Shelby and I both had a lot come up this week, and it was a busy week. It was a lot of opportunity, a lot of chances to live in this concept of being open and in the flow, and really leaning into that, and holding this space of allowing, understanding the true self and what it really means to be centered when we are faced with change and challenges, and how to navigate them. So we're going to go through some awesome tips on how to understand the flow and when you're not in it, if you're feeling stuck, and how to get out of it. And so the theme here is openness, and we're going to jump in.
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me is how to soften your expectations. You know, it's great to have an expectation. It's great to have a goal. It's great to have something to look forward to. But my goodness, time and time again, especially over these last 12 months, things get like kiboshed, and you just have to breathe through that and accept that there's nothing you can do about it. And so is it divine timing? Is it frustrating? Sometimes it feels like it's just simple frustration, even for people like you and I who do think in terms of, oh, it's all divine timing, it's all divinely orchestrated. But my goodness, these last 12 months have definitely tested those boundaries of understanding and acceptance, you know, of that just doesn't feel fair. It just doesn't feel fair, you know, when things are taken away or limits are put on us that we normally don't even consider a limit on a certain situation. So,
yeah, this year has been a lot of those things, not just COVID, but we had fires and smoke over the summer, and now we've had ice storms and shutdowns in other ways that are just really on top of these other challenges. So we're getting a lot of chances to learn how to navigate through these different twists and turns. And like you said, expectations are really an attachment to a desire or an attachment to a belief system, or I think of them as past patterns that I have just been operating out of, and how I expect things to go a certain way. And then when they don't, you have to learn how to pivot. And how do we not get stuck in disappointment?
I'm like pivot, turn, pivot, turn, pivot, turn.
That's how this whole week, that's why I keep saying corner, turn, corner, turn.
I thought we were on a spiral, Alicia. I mean, that's what we set up a few episodes ago. And here,
corner, spin, turn.
Seriously, I'm like an ice skater over here because it's all ice everywhere.
Literally ice everywhere. The whole country covered in ice.
Oh my goodness.
So what do we do? How do we show people how to
You sharpen your skates. That's what you do. You bring an awareness to it, right?
That's
Well,
the skill. Yeah, and it's a learned
yeah.
skill and it's a process.
Yeah. I think you and I were talking about it's bubbling up for a reason. Everything does have divine purpose here. And so why is this emotional reaction coming forward right now? And as much as in my own personal experience, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to go through that. It's showing me my past patterns. Like you were just saying, it's showing me how I react emotionally and mentally to things where in essence, I should try to shift that and think more intuitively and instinctually instead. And so I do, not in the moment, but in what do you say, hindsight, I do appreciate all those emotions coming up and my own frustrations, so that I can see myself and witness myself and change the habits, change the patterns, right?
Yeah, you're learning from it because you're moving towards it, or you're learning from it because you're facing it.
I'm
You're
facing it.
going into it. And I think that's our number one tip to start with, right? Just the belief system is overarching. But when we have expectations that lead to disappointment and are feeling sad, you really do want to acknowledge your feelings first. Look at them, see yourself. I am sad, I am disappointed, or I am feeling frustrated, and really move towards it instead of away, because those uncomfortable feelings are there to signal you. They're showing you where you have an attachment or a resistance, and it's in your belief system. And if you look at the feeling and you actually move towards it and go into it and allow yourself to feel it, then it shifts. It's amazing. It's magical. It's almost like a miracle. You're like really acknowledging the sadness, really allowing yourself to be sad, or allowing that frustration to bubble up to the surface, and you're really present with it. It will flow through you like water off a duck's back kind of thing. Like it'll be over before you know it, and you won't be stuck in it. And we were using the word ally, acknowledging it as an ally, as a benefit, as a signal to helping you. This is going to activate your awareness of what's really going on inside, so that you can see your true you, your true self. And that's the harmony and the centeredness, when you can really see yourself and be within your heart center, activate all your chakras. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but this is the exciting first step. Like when you're feeling stuck, how do you get out of it? When you've got an expectation, you're really let down and disappointed. How do you shift? You move towards it. You turn within.
And I'm sorry to digress here, but I want to quote Shrek for a minute. Better out than in. It's like it has to surface, and
Let it out.
you can't witness yourself hosting these patterns until you have the opportunity to witness yourself reacting emotionally to something, and then you have to use your tools. Use your tools, and I know that's what I had to do this week. I was really in a funk, and I was disappointed about a lot of different things and had expectations for the week. We had the week off, and it was supposed to just snow, and I was supposed to just snowboard, and none of that really happened because it's not fun to snowboard on ice. And so, I'm not just saying I'm disappointed because I couldn't snowboard. That sounds frivolous. There's a lot of other layers, but I really had to dig deep this week. And then ultimately what got me out of it was I need counsel from my higher realms. And it was so cool, Alicia, how immediate it was when I sought that counsel. I work with Nicole Singer, and she does a group channeling. And I was so happy she had one going on the Thursday night, and I logged on, and boom, the message, she picked on me first, which was so cool. I was kind of intuitively saying, could you please pick on me first? And she's like, okay, we're going to start with Shelby. I was like, yes. And the messages were just so clear. And I had to said, why am I in this funk? And she said it was intentional to release these despair, these emotions. And yeah. And it has to be exposed to be released. It's like a purge. So, gosh, it was amazing. I was like, wow, that was like a pivot. Talk about a pivot. I just felt spectacular after getting that wisdom and understanding it in a different way. And like you just said, seeing it as an ally and being grateful for the funk. Isn't there a song? We like the funk. Oh, so that'll be our opening song to this episode.
There we go. Yeah. We'll maybe stick it on the end.
Yeah. There. Sweet. You got to listen to the whole episode so you can dance at the end. But let's talk about that real quick. That was ultimately her advice. And this is the advice we give is she said, you got to shake it up when you're feeling that, of course I wanted to just pull the covers over my head and sleep, which I was tired. So I did that a little bit, but she's like, you got to rattle and you got to dance and you got to do some movement and
shake it off. That was actually the message I got yesterday too. I also reached out and I had a equally challenging week with so many pivots and turns, and without having to tell the whole story of what happened, I went into looking at the pattern and how is this a pattern for me and what is it that I need to let go of to get out of it. And the big message that came through was to shake it off, and for me it was beliefs around rigidity, which I think is what happens anytime we're stuck in an expectation or in a belief.
An outcome. Yeah.
It's a rigidity. It's a belief that things need to be a certain way. And I wanted to break out of that and do things differently in this outrageously open way. And I'm going to quote Tosha Silver again, because that book, Outrageous Openness, changed my life and ability to do this that we're talking about. So for me, it's embodying the openness. And to do that, you have to start with shaking it off. And I literally shake my whole body, jump up and down, shimmy, get the chi flowing, and then work with the crown chakra to open and feel the limitless possibility, the open possibility. Like there's not any one right way. There could be so many other ways the universe wants to show you the possibility of what's next, that if you can hold that, if I can hold that openness, which is my goal here, and I really feel like my future self has got this. She understands how to do this. And I want to bring that future self into the present. Like, how can I act more like my future self right now and embody this openness? One of the phrases that came through was lean into openness. And my coach, who I trade with, because I do spiritual life coaching for others, and Ulrika Sullivan has a podcast where she gives great spiritual tips as well. And she's my coach. And when I did this full session with her, I got so many wonderful insights about this exact topic. We figured we had to talk about it because we've both been in it. And
navigating. So I feel like I didn't lean, I dove, and I've been swimming. But let's suggest leaning. Leaning is a little more gentle. So
leaning. And I love the idea of leaning into something, but in my body, when I lean towards something, I feel like I'm out of my center. So I actually take the concept and I flip it and I say, lean into the self, leaning toward your internal centeredness. And that's the goal, is to be centered when we're dealing with all this crazy outside influence of change and needing to pivot and turn and shift with all that's going on in the world. So taking a deep breath and leaning internally to that centered place within. For me, it's my heart, but let's go all the way down to the root chakra,
Mm.
because rooting and grounding in safety
Yeah.
is a lot of the reason why we get so attached. Is we want to feel safe, and we don't like feeling uncomfortable. We want to feel comfort and safety go together. And that was the thing that came up for me in my session with Ulrika yesterday. Reaching towards this new way of being takes me into an uncomfortable place of not knowing what the future brings. I'm moving in with my partner. We're talking about buying a house together. There's so much possibility there and change,
Which
but
is
we're
all root chakra, my friend.
right, but we're not there yet. So how do I hold this centered place within and stay open has been my big question. And it's for sure in the sacral chakra, all the way rooted into the divine trust and
Mm-hmm.
letting go of needing it to really feel like safety in a particular way, but letting the safety be trust in the divine. Trust
Mm-hmm.
that source is unlimited and it will bring me to the next right step as I hold my center. And that's where we can trust.
And trust in you. Trust that
Exactly.
you are that source and you are here. You have arrived into this place of divine grace and divine strength and divine
Right to shine, right to be
divine right.
you.
Yes. Yes. And I think it's perfect that intuitive and instinctual is all in words, and I think I think everyone can relate to this is what are our challenges? It's our mental spirals, our mental chatter, and our emotions, And so I love, that was with Judy Yamamura that she really said, you've got to get back to the intuitive and to the instinctual versus the emotional and mental. Because when you are able to separate the two and look at them, it makes so much sense. Like, where is the instinctual and intuitive coming from? It's coming from the divine. It's coming from your faith. It's coming from your knowingness, your future self, your past self, your collective
Conscious.
soul. Yeah, like all the wisdom from all your past lives brought together in a remembrance, in an arrival, in a yes moment. I'm getting so excited right now. Like, yeah. And when you claim that interconnectedness and that wisdom and knowledge, you take that deep breath and you center, then you can walk with a little more assurance, and you're not constantly pivoting and having emotional reactions and disappointments and ups and downs. It's like it's all perfect. It really is. Even when it totally pivots you, you're like, wow, I didn't expect that, but it must be perfect in some way. So let's look at that and figure out why, or you don't even have to figure it out. You just let it unfold.
Yes, that's the allowing. That's the part about allowing. And it's so cool. It's not like it's passive. It's not like you're just letting things be and you're stepping back and you're not having a part in it energetically. You are in a process of accepting. The allowing something is like, let it be what it is. Let you be you, let me be me, let the situation just be what it is. And here we are. And the joy is in the presence and being
Mhm.
able to enjoy the present moment, right? So
Yeah.
I was saying that my top three core values or core desired feelings, as Danielle LaPorte, I did her training and have facilitated people through trying to discover your core desired feelings. My number one feeling is freedom. And so it makes
Mm.
sense to me that this openness is this freedom. And that this might be a good time to shift into talking about risk and reward,
Mm-hmm.
and that wanting to move towards something, put your focus and energy, and how to focus on, like, Shelby, you say your girls have this gymnastics meet coming up and you're
Mm-hmm.
putting your energy there. But this fear of disappointment and
Yeah,
balancing that versus the regret of not even doing it at all.
absolutely. Well, and it's compounded this year because I mean, there's always a fear of being disappointed in any gymnastics event because you could not perform as you want, or you could get injured or sick. But this year it's like, or the whole thing could be canceled, or your group of kids, half your team could be put into quarantine, or the coaches could be put into quarantine. So there's all these like, oh, wow, there's a lot of risk here, a risk of disappointment. But
But how do we stay present with the desire to move forward
mm-hmm,
and not let that risk of disappointment hold us back or mental spiral into fear?
right,
And then how do we not just let it go completely where then we regret not doing it at all? And my answer to that is this is a practice in stress resiliency, and this is a practice in following your intuitive instinctual direction and finding joy in the moment. If you get halfway through the project, it's what you were saying before about failure. At least you tried.
right.
So enjoy the effort you put towards it and be joyful in the moment that you did as much as you did.
Mm-hmm.
And then let go of the attachment to it turning out in a particular way, looking winning or getting the best highest score at the meet. You might
Yeah,
fall. I did that in
yeah,
my competition when I was in high school. Was I did the flag corps with the marching band,
yeah,
color guard on the field, and then in the wintertime we did competition indoors with just dancing and flags and
yeah.
rifle and saber. And I fell in the middle
Oh, shoot.
of we had this like duet jump, me and this other girl, and we weren't on cue together. And I tried to stay in the air just a little bit longer so that we would land at the same time, and I fell. And
Uh,
it felt like such a horrible and I let down the whole team. So it wasn't just
mm,
me, it was attachment to something. And the coach came up to me so angry, and he was
oh,
not a wonderful coach when it came to that. It was so unfortunate. He said, "What the heck happened to you?" And I said, "You know what? I fell." And then I just
yeah,
had to let it go. And then what, you know, oh
yeah,
well, what
yeah,
do? You get up and you keep going and you move on. You do the next thing and
yeah.
don't let it stop you. Don't get attached to the disappointment. Don't get stuck in it.
I think there's always for me right now, it's like, do we want to devote the next month or 4 weeks, 5 weeks to training for an event that could be canceled? And how many times have you put your best foot forward? You've prepared a paper for school or whatever, and then like, oh yeah, we don't need that anymore. And you're like, but I just spent a week preparing. And I think the value in that is saying, look how diligent I was and look at how I could focus my energy towards something. And I actually did accomplish quite a bit, even if the cherry on top never got to be placed on top, even if I never got to that final episode or event or speaking platform. It is about some resiliency and about endurance and about courage and about I'd rather put the action forward than say I never even tried. So there's your risk versus reward. It's like, what is the true reward? You might have an expectation that the reward is the meet or the
The
competition,
final outcome.
the presentation, but really, but really, it was the journey to get there. And we've talked about that before too. So, okay, I think I'm ready to present this to my girls in a beautiful
Yay.
way.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
helps us to talk about it like
Mm-hmm.
this in this
Mm-hmm.
platform, shifting for our own lives. But then we want to share the wisdom that we've gained out of going through the process. And as you learn to incorporate these new paradigm values into your life, you will be tested, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both Shelby and I feel like we were tested a lot this week.
In your face tested.
Yeah, it's here you go. Give it an extra little challenge. And if you successfully can find your way through, it's not that you didn't fail at all, right? Or that you didn't struggle. It's
Mm-hmm.
that you found your way through.
Mm-hmm.
And the more smoothly we can find our way through each time, that helps us to stay in our center on the regular basis.
And let me add a real component to this. It's not always smooth. And I do want to shout out to Pachamama, because I, as a spiritual mama, as you know, a podcaster with you, and I'm thinking of all the things I've been sharing, I was in my funk. And so I just marched, I put all my snow gear on and I marched outside, and it was like breaking through this snow crusted, forest. And I just knelt down I could cry about it right now, but I just knelt down in the woods and I just said, I'm struggling. And I just sat there, and it was so quiet and it was so wonderful. And then my friend had suggested that I get a big branch, and I was trying to release something. I was trying to release an attachment to something that I was uncomfortable with. And she said, why don't you go and break a branch? And so it wasn't necessarily all quiet. I got that branch, and I was just like, oh, and it was wonderful, because I felt like I was encouraged by Mother Earth to say, you could take this out with me. Like, I'm strong enough to handle your rage and your frustration. And I felt so gifted afterward. And when I was, could have bounced back into that place, I said, no, you've already done your ceremony, Shelby. You've already gone out, you've released it. You broke that branch in half and you let go. And so it was so awesome to reference that. You've already done the ceremony. You've already let go. Keep going. And I fed that throughout the rest of the week to just remind myself I've gone through it.
Help you release the stuckness. And that's
Yeah.
that shaking it off, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you do it, actually, I've done this. Tosha recommends breaking dishes from Goodwill into a bucket with a rock or something. You're just like, smash! Really get the energy out. And that's the thing we said at the beginning. You have to go through it. You have to do an action of turning towards the challenging, uncomfortable thing so that you can really see it clearly, so you can really experience it fully, and then it's done. Like you said, you come back and you say, I did it. I did the ceremony. I broke the dish. I broke the branch. I shook and screamed. And, one of my other teachers, I saw a post she put up that said, scream it out. And even if that's just in a journal, right? Like, and I used to do that as a teenager. Oh, I would scribble some cuss words into my journal instead of
with the Sharpie.
Yeah. We want to be kind to others and kind to ourselves. And there's a really positive way to express these challenging, supposedly negative emotions, or they are lower vibrational frequency, but sometimes you have to ride that wave to get to the beach or to the other side.
Yes. And know that it could come back, but you are stronger, and you have come around the spiral again, and you're a little wiser and a little ready to witness yourself and say, oh, I guess it's still lingering. I'm going to go break that branch again.
Yeah. And look at the thing. What is the attachment? What is the thought or the feeling that I'm so stuck on it needing to be a certain way that then we go back to openness. And this concept of just embodying the openness, holding it so big and wide within yourself that there's unlimited possibility. There's a place for joy within you in so many different places. How do you get there? What do you find joy in? And those are I don't know if I finished saying all my top 3 core desired feelings and values is freedom, love, and joy. And you would think, I changed my name to Love, that love would be number 1. And actually, love is in everything in my life. And unconditional love truly is what gets us through. There's never an imbalance in unconditional love. That's a quote from my session yesterday. Ulrika said, there is never an imbalance with unconditional love. So you hold that love. If you desire freedom or joy, or there's so many wonderful feelings and values that people tell me in their coaching sessions that are their top. And then we look at how to stay open to experiencing those without it narrowing your focus into, I can only get this need met in this one particular way.
Or this one particular person.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. or this one particular house. Maybe I could share my story.
Yes, do that, because it's funny that you brought up this story. I can't wait for you to share, but I want to say too that I was looking for a house in these last couple of weeks. We've got so much parallel. I want to hear your story, and I'm going to share my bit about it too. It's so cool.
Okay, so this was about 6 years ago, and I had witnessed a house. I'd gone to see it. I fell in love with it, and then this was, I think, in the fall, and we just put the kibosh on. Like, we're not going to buy a house right now. We're going to wait till the spring. So all winter, I was just dream about this house, and I would lay in bed and I would imagine which rooms were going to be, which children would be in which room. And it was just, I put so much love and intention into this home. And then when the springtime came and we put an offer on, we had put an offer on it at what we could afford. And it was underneath what they were asking. So I felt sad, and I didn't want to feel embarrassed, that we couldn't offer more. So my partner at the time, he said, well, let's look at other houses so we don't feel so bad. And in that process, we ended up finding a couple other houses that we liked. And we were not expecting that. We had set on this other house. And so in the next couple of days, we went and looked at these other two houses and ended up buying one of those houses. And so for me, that was just such an interesting, I had such a big dedication toward that one home that I was determined to buy it. And that was where I invested 2 seasons worth of energy into it. And ultimately my emotions led me to look online again. And now here I am sitting in this beautiful home that I feel is so much better suited for me. So letting go of the attachment, it was huge, letting go of that disappointment that maybe they weren't going to accept, and they didn't accept the offer. So it was just a good lesson for me. So.
And how nice that you chose to be open to possibility outside of that one desire before they rejected or your offer, it wasn't forced upon you. And I think of this and the way that I talk about astrology as well. There are certain shifts that will happen to us. You can choose it before it happens to you, or you can choose it instead of it happening to you. So I'll share my thing, what happened to me this last couple of months, and I might have mentioned it in the last episode or two. I've been renting, and the landlord wanted to move back into her house. And so I got this eviction notice. I've never been evicted out of a house before that I've rented. I've owned houses in the past, and I've just never thought that this would happen to me. But now I'm in this, okay, what do I do next? Open possibility, and explored a few options. My partner said, well, why don't we buy you a house? Let's get you a house. I'll have my house. We'll live separately. And in the interim, you can move in here if you want to. Let's see what, the possibilities are. We're going down all these avenues, right? I'm talking to the mortgage lender. We've got our friend who's a real estate agent jumping on the board for us. And it's been a crazy twist and turn of, we got really excited about this one house. And my son, now this is the mama part, I want to talk about our kids' disappointment and how they're so excitable, especially at this age, right? You said your daughter was 9 at the time when you're buying that house, and my son's now 13. And gosh, he has so much amazing energy that he can put towards something. He can manifest things and he makes it happen. So he was excited about this very first house we found that was cool. And it was out of our budget, and it was too quick. I hadn't talked to the mortgage lender yet. There's so many things that have to line up. And so I was using it as a teaching moment, how to stay open to possibility when you get really excited about something, but you don't want to get attached so that you get disappointed, but how to stay joyful in the openness, excited about all the possibilities, and let that intuition guide you. And so this would be a good time to talk about hearing that alarm within when you're getting the yes feeling. It might feel like something all of a sudden clicks and you're like, yes, this is the right thing. Or even this morning, I was telling you a story that my partner was talking about this association between the gut brain and antibiotics and depression. And it was so cool that he just all of a sudden he was like, oh my God, a bell just went off. I was like, I can hear it. It's like inside of you so loud that you're like, aha. And
Yes.
that's where that phrase, when it rings true, comes from. It's like that inner
Yeah.
awareness of the right on intuition saying yes. And how do we follow that? Well, staying open to listening and being guided by the divine. So powerful.
Yes to the intuition. Yes to the instinctual. Again, making the distinct clarity between the distinct difference between an emotional reaction and instinctual. And with Judy Yamamura, she's always encouraging me to tune into my bell or my, she calls it like a hum, I will feel a certain peaceful resonance in my body when I'm in line with my my intuition, so I know that this is not a podcast about intuition, but really dealing with the disappointments and the letting go and expectation. It is a distinction between, is this emotional? And if it is, allow it to move through you, but intuitively knowing that it's an okay decision still. There's just a divine guidance. And
Yeah, I mean, the podcast is about intuition overarchingly, about
yeah.
it generally, but this specific episode is about how to be flexible, how to be resilient, how to stay open. And these are the tools. The intuition is always a key tool for us in how to stay centered and
Stay balanced.
stay balanced.
And get back on balance. That's what I feel is when I'm disappointed, I'm knocked right off my center. I'm like, that wasn't my plan. My day was lined up to include X, Y, and Z. And now you're telling me it's F, G, and H? What the heck?
So step one, acknowledge it.
Yeah. And feel the disappointment. And, especially with your kids, like you were just saying, that's hard. And remember that kids are a lot more resilient than adults are sometimes, which I have been known to say. That's why I do enjoy coaching children, because they're so resilient and they bounce back. But they have very legitimate emotions. And I think helping them to understand, to witness and not stuff down their emotions, but allow them to release it, flow it, cry, be disappointed, and then say, okay, we have an opportunity to do something different now. What do we want to do with it?
Right. Openness. I love that question. What do you want to do with the possibilities are endless? So what do we do now? How do we flow with it? And
Absolutely.
listening, tuning in, feeling that hum of alignment, checking in with your chakras, feeling how to let go of attachment, even noticing where you're attached and seeing you unplug from it, breaking the branch, cutting that off by shaking it off. But really, it's about
Shake
awareness.
Shake it off. We have like a whole soundtrack to go with this.
Love it.
And I just thought of something else, which will lead us into our next podcast about pioneering. And is the expectation even yours? That's a very big recognition. Is this an expectation that was cast upon me by society or by my family or by my friends? Or can I let go of it a little easier than I really thought I could? So that's just another level of exploration when something doesn't go the way you think it should.
I'm excited to dive into that on another episode because that is amazing. And I do that in coaching my clients a lot. There's a lot of that kind of acknowledgement of where does this come from? So that's the question you can ask yourself when you're doing this process. Where is that expectation, belief, attachment coming from? Do you hear your mother's voice? Do you hear, the outside
Society.
influence? Yeah. Who's that? Where's it come from? So cool.
There's a really good Eddie Vedder song, Society. My gosh, we really have a soundtrack to go with this. Stay tuned for the playlist.
Yeah, check the show notes where we direct you to all of the things that we talk about in the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, let's close with a third eye chakra affirmation. All is perfect just as it is.
Yes. Yes. And that is a real way of being that I have learned to sit inside of from ceremony, from being inside of ceremony. I learned that right away, that you can't have any expectation when you're in a medicine ceremony or a journey. It's just exactly perfect as it is. So,
And isn't that exactly how you and I, would like to live our lives, as if life is a ceremony? This is all directly connected to our spirit and spiritual connection. And it's always going to work out because it's always in divine flow. The divine
yeah.
timing is what directs us through our intuition, and all is well.
Yes. Even the tough parts, they're beautiful lessons. Turn toward them, embrace them, thank them, and whoosh them off with love. Yes.
Whoosh.
Whoosh. Whoosh.
All right, everyone. Don't forget, we do ceremony on Wednesdays, every other Wednesday, closest to the new moon and the full moon. So join us there, subscribe, and please rate this podcast. Let us know what you think and how you feel about it. We've got a Facebook page, Instagram, so please engage with us. We love to have conversations, obviously. This is what we do. But we'd love to have conversations with you too. So
thank you so much. Blessings on your journeys and accepting whatever comes into your path.
yay. Namaste.